Okay, hello. So, first off, this is for emo 15-year-old songwriters that are into XXX and Post Malone. No, I'm just kidding. But this is kind of meant for the younger adult generation, just because my main problem that I will be talking about is that adults get way too much attention. And I will elaborate on that later, so just buckle up and pay attention, please, because I am not doing all of this work for shit. So, thank you. Um, First off, I just want to say that there are a whole lot of high school and college level people that are really into songwriting. And I want to say that a lot of those people started songwriting because they have a whole lot of emotion that they gotta let out somewhere. And typically, teenagers and people in their early 20s are experiencing new things including emotions. And I say new emotions, but they're not exactly new. But during those ages between 15 and 25, they say that they're very emotional, and that's because they're just beginning to understand, like fully understand those feelings and emotions much more, and such as like intense sadness and anger and things like that. So they have all of that new and strong emotions in them, and writing songs is just a common relief for those heavy emotions. But since we are talking about young people, like I said, they're experiencing new things, and songwriting is a new thing for them. So, songwriter's block is pretty much inevitable. No one can expect to be a professional on their first try, and writer's block is just a thing that any artist should be expecting. The only thing is, how do these young adult songwriters overcome that block? Um, so I have done research on this, and in my research, I did not find many valuable and trustable sources that that give that point of view of young new artists, which is really upsetting because I've had multiple friends that started to write songs and they did go through songwriter's block when they were trying to come up with their lyrics. For example, my friend Josh, he was a diehard depressed band kid, um, and I remember that this one time he was writing a song about some girl that he was in love with, and it took him so long to finish, and it really upset him, and it was hard because I couldn't help him because I didn't know anything about songwriting, and it was hard for him because he didn't know what to do to get that inspiration and that motivation. And I feel like it wouldn't have been as hard if there was actually valuable and relatable information out there by young adults that are experiencing the same thing. So, as I had said earlier, my problem is that there is a lot of information out there on how older, more experienced adults go through and overcome writer's block. But there's not so much for younger, less experienced people. um, which is completely not fair. But I wanted to discuss the articles on writer's block that I had found, and all of them have different methods and situations, but they are about writer's block. Um, and one of them was about how hypnotizing yourself helps you to overcome writer's block. And it does sound a little weird or odd, but it actually does make sense. So, the author said um, in his article that by hypnotizing yourself, when you come across writer's block, you calm down and allow yourself to clear your mind enough to continue. And in the article, he has 3 cases of people who use different methods of self-hypnotism. And in the end, most of the people that he had conducted that research on had improvements on their on their writer's block after hypnotizing themselves. So they felt like they were more calm, and it helped them get through that block. Another one of my articles was about how computers could help writers experiencing writer's block. So the author talks about a few things, including a computer class that she taught, and and she also talked about the 2 different writer's block experiences that a handful of her students went through. And she went into detail in 2 different sections about those 2 issues, which were not knowing how to begin their introduction, and also not knowing how to change what needed to be changed. And she says that, her conclusion was that with the help of computers, students can understand that they don't always have to start with the introduction. They could always add in later, just as long as they start somewhere, whether it's the body or conclusion. And the other source that I had found, the authors talk about how writer's block is actually helpful and a necessity to a writer because it allows them to practice at their writing. They also say that writers should not have high expectations of their work, just because it puts more pressure on them and it to be as perfect as a professional, which is unhealthy and in fact causes a whole lot more writer's block because they're trying to reach something more than necessary. So after reading all these articles, I found the common failure to mention the young adult perspective in all of these articles, which is really important because there are a whole lot of young artists that are in need of that relatable help, and they're not getting it because old experienced professionals are relaying their own feedback from a professional experience point of view, which is good for older people that need that, but it's not helpful for the young adults because they have different problems and a different level of understanding. So by only having the adult perspective, it really strains the ability for young adults to succeed, which is why there needs to be research conducted by young adults themselves so that they have help and that they can overcome their writer's block.